Hello, Clement29 here with another Topic of the Week video. This week I'll be discussing Once Upon a Time. This week's topic was submitted by Tumblr user and Optimistic Snarker, and their topic was where the writers of Once Upon a Time went wrong with the series and any possible ways they could have avoided the problems the show currently has, or if it's possible to fix them at this point. I'll say what I said about Attack on Titan, my Attack on Titan topic video. At this point, Once Upon a Time is completely unsalvageable. It's in, what, 5th season? 6th season? I don't really remember. I stopped quitting. I quit in the middle of season 3. But the problems with the show have reached such an absolute point where everyone is acting like an idiot. Everyone is out of character. Everyone is being completely pissed on. The writing is crap. And just... There's like, if you brought in the best writers in the world to work on Once Upon a Time now and kicked all the old writers out, you would not be able to salvage the show. I mean, sure, you could have reversed some of the issues, but like at this point, you know, having the characters act properly and do, you know, make intelligent decisions that is in line with their actual characters would seem out of character because they've been doing stupid stuff for so long, and it's really stupid because Once Upon a Time is such a really cool idea. So you take, you know, Disney fairy tales or just fairy tales in general, you give them a new, more, you know, updated twist, and you combine them all into one story where you have Snow White interacting with Rumpelstiltskin, while his son is, you know, well, Rumpelstiltskin's father is Peter Pan, and you know, and Rumpelstiltskin is actually the crocodile in the Peter Pan story, where Captain Hook hates him, and it's like, and it's so interesting seeing this melding pot of all these different fairy tales. And one of the things that the show had going for it at first was the dual storylines that were going. At first it was, you see the events in the fairy tale world leading up to, you know, what happened to get to things in season 1. And then as the seasons going on, it starts filling out different, you know, things of what happened. And then it got stupid. Season 1 was really good. Season 2 less so, but still had some good things. I mean, the bad guys were probably the worst part about it. They wanted to get rid of magic, but they were just these insufferable a-holes. Just, they, like, and what's worse about them though is the fact that they would miraculously escape. For people who don't want to believe in magic, they sure had a lot of plot magic on their side. I mean, seriously, Charming would have a gun on them, and then they'd stand there and then it'd just be like, I'm pointing my gun at her as hard as I can. And it's like, and even when they shoot, they somehow never hit them. And it's like, these aren't like some specially trained people or people who have lots of magic. These are literally just a couple of schmucks who say, I'm gonna get rid of magic. That plotline wasn't as strong. But season 2 gave us Neil, who is arguably the best character in the entire series, so naturally they kill him off in season 3. Spoilers. Now, where the show actually went wrong. Season 3 is when it went wrong, like, actually went wrong. Started getting irredeemably wrong. You know, in season 2 there was that stupid stuff I was saying, but overall season 2 was still pretty good. We were introduced to Captain Hook, you know, who was just devious, like, evil killer villain. He was fun to watch. And you had, you know, you had Cora, Regina's mother was involved. You know, season 3 took place in Neverland, or at least season 3, the first half of season 3, the whole Neverland arc. You know, that took place in Neverland. Cool. Peter Pan was the villain. He's also Rumpelstiltskin's father. Like, okay, so despite the fact that you know, seasons 2 and 3A had some issues, they were still cool. So where did the problems really start settling in? It's 3A. It's, you know, the first half of season 3, aka the Neverland arc. This is when you start seeing problems come in. It's not irredeemable, because the Neverland arc still has some really great moments. One of my personal favorites is when Emma finally admits to Neil that she still loves him, but she's just hurt over the fact that he left all those years ago and basically left her to, you know, rot, is what she thought. And then she finds out that he was doing it to save her because it was her destiny and all that stuff. And there's all these complicated feelings, and they really were one of the most interesting, you know, pairings in the show. And loved them. And they had so much development and backstory together. So of course, you know, they don't get together. But problems came in Neverland. I mean, Neverland started off like really strong, because when in the very start of Neverland arc, they literally just kill off the villains from the previous season. It was amazing. Like, finally, these two a-holes are dead. Like, I literally was just rooting for them to die. I didn't care what happened to them. I thought Regina was more sympathetic in season 1. That's saying something. But, one of the biggest problems, and easily the biggest problem when it comes to, you know, what was going on in season 3, was once they got to Neverland, for some inexplicable reason, Hook turned into an anti-hero good guy. Now, of course, you thought this was entirely just a ploy. I mean, he was literally complicit in mass slaughter in season 2. He was totally cool with it. He's totally willing to kill people to get what he wants. And then in season 2, he looks at Emma and he's just like, I want to bang you. Which means I'm a pretty good guy, right? Now, my assumption at first was he was trying to play Emma. You know, he's this suave pirate, and so he's trying to get in her pants so that he can get on everyone's good graces, because he's surrounded by people who want to kill him. On top of that, he's surrounded by the Lost Boys too, so he doesn't particularly want to deal with all that. So I can understand him trying to manipulate them. Here's the problem. He wasn't trying to manipulate them. He was literally just in love with Emma. Out of nowhere. This is when we start getting the real big issues with Captain Swan. The pairing is awful. It's literally the Makora of... It's literally the Makora of Once Upon a Time. Just... ugh. So he goes from being gleefully willing to kill her in season 2... and I think he did knock her out. I think he punched her. I think it might have been in the finale. I don't really remember the details of that. It was a few years ago, but he goes from, you know, trying to kill her to, I really want to bang you, with no indication of why. It literally just happens, and this pervades throughout the entire season, and it gets worse as time goes on. So there's this weird, awkward love triangle between Captain Hook, Emma, and Neil. Neil loves Emma, Emma still loves Neil, and then Hook likes Emma, and Emma kind of thinks Hook is hot, but doesn't really like him. And if they're trying to set up UST, they fail. There's no sexual tension between them. It's just kind of gross, because, okay, first off, Hook is evil. Like, They try to do, it's like they advertise season 3 with this redemption arc for him, and 1, why? He was so much more fun as a villain, and 2, where did this even come from? Like, what's the basis for his redemption? Usually when a villain is redeemed, there's something sympathetic about them that you would want, you might want to root for them to actually be able to do, or maybe have them fix their ways because there's a sign of them doing good. Like, let's review, you know, what his backstory was. He was an a-hole pirate who basically stole Rumpelstiltskin's wife, and when Rumpelstiltskin killed her and cut off his hand, he's just like, I hate the Dark One now. He caused that problem. And he's an a-hole too, so there's no sympathy given for that. Not to mention that Rumpelstiltskin's wife was awful too, so I didn't feel much sympathy when Rumpelstiltskin killed her, especially since she was horrible to him. She's just a nasty person, and then she leaves him and Baelfire just to get laid with a pirate, and it's like. And he went, the coward Rumpelstiltskin actually went and fought for his wife, got the crap kicked out of him by a douchebag pirate, and she still has no sympathy for him. So yeah, like, Hook, a-hole, complete a-hole, 100% a dick. Season 3 comes along, and all of a sudden he's just like, I'm trying to do better. Why? Like there's no real explanation for why his character suddenly changed, why he wanted to be a good guy. Like, and then it's trying to come up with all these explanations and stuff about how he used to be a sailor, or used to be a soldier, or used to be a soldier or something like that, and it's like, and some of it came off as trying to justify him. Others came off as just, okay, but what does this change? And that's one of the biggest problems. It's like, okay, if you really needed to redeem Hook, give me a good reason why. And on top of that, it's like a lot of these writers don't understand. You can't just flip a switch in that character's brain and go, I want to be a good guy now. That's not how it works. I mean, you can look at Zuko in Avatar: The Last Airbender and his character arc, and he has one of the best villain turned hero arcs ever. And also look at characters like Vegeta. You want to know what they both have in common? It took a long time. It took 2.5 seasons before Zuko actually decided to be a good guy. And that includes multiple chances where he could have done good, but chose not to. Then you have a character like Vegeta. Vegeta took, let's see, starting from the Saiyan saga, you had 3 years to the Android saga, and 7 years. So yeah, it took about 10 years in the Boo saga for him to actually make significant, get over a lot of issues. And then it took another several years to get to Super, where he's actually, not doing stupid stuff. Because let's be real, Vegeta did a lot of stupid stuff in the Boo saga. But that's the thing with these characters. It takes a while for these characters, to become good. And I mean, one of the issues with Once Upon a Time had with its villains is that it didn't give certain villains any sympathy at all. Regina and Mr. Gold, aka Rumpelstiltskin, what sympathy did they get? Honestly, it's like, even after they were basically like, okay, we're sorry for being complete dicks, we want to do something good, like, the main characters treat them like garbage. And I'm like, and I started feeling really sorry for Regina. I started feeling really sorry for Regina. Regina. You make me sympathize with Regina over Charming and Snow? Like, I think you goofed on that one. Like, I shouldn't be looking at the main characters and say, yeah, you guys are a bunch of douchebags. And that's ended up what happened. And, I think this happened in Season 2 as well. I think that was another big issue. Is that after, like, the past is in the past. Everyone here has done something stupid. Even they tried, and on top of that, they had an issue where they would not let, it's just happened especially with Rumpelstiltskin, they would not let him be good. They would contrive everything around him to force him to be bad. And Belle, his morality pet, his one, like, emotional rock, is suddenly turned into, like, evil, and then it corrupts him even further, and it's like, just let be happy. Jeez, let them be a good guy at least. And they have to keep contriving things season after season, trying to play with the, are they a villain, are they not, or, look, he may be a good guy, but he did something bad, and it just, but then, for some reason, Hook, who is the least sympathetic, one of the least sympathetic villains we've seen, is the one who gets the instant redemption arc. Everyone just is more kind of like, yeah, it's Hook. Not like, I hate Hook, he tried to kill us. Where did this come from? It's the one part of Season 3, the writing starts getting really wonky. And then there are other minor issues too, besides Hook, like trying to distort the Mulan, Philip, Aurora love triangle, which one of the few love triangles that I ever thought was handled in any decent way. Where, you know, Mulan fell in love with Philip, and, you know, she was kind of, you know, pissy at Aurora, because Aurora was kind of a stuck-up brat. But, you know, then she realized, you know, she loves Philip loves her, and I'd be a terrible person if I was trying to sabotage their relationship. So she respected that, you know, Philip is happier with Aurora than her. And in season 3, it's trying to imply that she was in love with Aurora. And then they're like, oh yeah, Mulan is a bisexual now. Since when? Since you decided to arbitrarily change her sexuality to pander to the social justice crowd? It's like, where is this even coming from? Why? It serves no purpose. In fact, it was literally just tossed in there, and it's like... And of course, you know, then that got worse as the seasons go on, because then they start pandering even more to that crowd, and it's just like, you're completely ripping apart these characters just to make a handful of people who, I guarantee, don't even actually watch the show, you know, happy. But of course, you know, as long as, you know, they get that pandering done, then it doesn't matter if the rest of the plot is a mess, so the characters are all out of character, yeah. I mean, for all the good season 3 did, it inserted a lot of dumb stuff too. But overall, season 3A is still pretty good. I would actually recommend, if I was recommending Once Upon a Time to someone, I would say watch just season 3A and stop. Season 3B is when things start going off the rails. Now, I stopped watching at 3A mostly because I kind of forgot to watch the next part of the season. It was one of those things where they had a little hiatus and they came back, I think it was. And by the time it came back, it was several episodes in, and I didn't feel like I had enough time to catch up. And I'm glad I didn't, because 3B was awful. Because they did stupid stuff like killing Neela strictly to get, Emma and Hook together. Despite the fact that she's very much disgusted in him the whole time, all of a sudden she's totally cool with making out with him. And by the end of the season, thing. I mean, they already have Wonderland and stuff. I don't care if they do something like The Wizard of Oz, but the fact that they just sort of put it in, they just did it, and it felt so unnatural. Like, okay, yeah. You know, when season 2 came along, they did some canon welding and just decided to... They always have to constantly merge these new stories in, and you can tell that this all wasn't planned, but hey, as long as it works out, right? I mean, hell, the whole story with Pan being Rumpelstiltskin's father, you know, I guarantee that was a retcon. It wasn't planned from the beginning, or even early on. But it's still an interesting idea that still works out. And then you get to stupid stuff like Frozen. Actually Frozen. Oh, it's just season 4. And you see, that is ultimately where they started going completely off the rails. Because one of the things that the show had going for it is the fact that it was giving you interesting twists on characters. Pinocchio was actually a biker dude who was pretty mysterious, but, you know, it was showing how he had fallen off of the trail, like, you know, in the movie. But, you know, it was, you know, giving a bit of a darker take on his character, and he ultimately died because he had fallen too far off. And it's like, and you get all these other stuff that's interesting, you know. Jiminy Cricket was a guy who was a therapist and stuff in this, and, you know, the Blue Fairy was a nurse, and okay, you have these really cool, interesting ideas as how they would work in our world, and then, you know, how they fit into the overall mythos of the fairy tale land. And then you get Frozen. At least the Wicked Witch of the West was at least halfway decent. I mean, sure, it was stupid, Zelena being like Regina's half-sister or something stupid like that, just... but at least, okay, The Wizard of Oz is a neat idea, but Frozen? They didn't even try. Like, okay, I wouldn't mind if they adapted the Ice Queen, but literally, it was literally Frozen with Elsa and Anna and Kristoff and Hans. They didn't even change the costumes from the movies. And that is stuff that really ticks me off. Never watched the season because I got sick of Once Upon a Time by then. But the lack of creativity is astounding. And then you have that bullcrap of having Cruella de Vil, Maleficent, and... was it Ursula? I mean, one of the things I get pissed me off is that Maleficent was killed in season 1. Do they not remember that she was the dragon in the bottom of the library? Who cares? And then it has to come up with these absurd explanations for why things are happening. Oh, and then they start throwing Hercules in. Yeah, like Hades is in this too. And like, oh my gosh, this is just such an absolute mess. There's no way you can actually fix this. There's really no way you can fix this. You would have to go back. I would say go back to season 1. And you would have to work from there again. Because season 2 has issues, season 3A has issues, season 3B is a cataclysm of issues, season 4 is awful, season 5 is awful, and as the show will continue to be awful until it gets canceled because its ratings dropped. This is, like I said with Attack on Titan, if you had to rewrite Attack on Titan, you would have to go back to the beginning. You'd have to go back to like the Trost arc and rewrite that, and then continue rewriting it. And basically that covered what, 20 chapters? Maybe? No, it wasn't even 20 chapters. Maybe like 16, 17? I don't remember. I could say it ended when Eren plugged the hole in the wall, but still, that was the first arc in Attack on Titan. And everything else past that is full of completely buggy writing issues. And that's the same thing with, Once Upon a Time. Season 1 is good, and you can tell Season 1 was planned, Season 1 was really good, it deserves its praise. Season 2, while it has some issues, is still overall pretty good. But if you really want me to be honest, you'd have to rewrite Season 2 as well. At the very least, make the bad guys either more sympathetic or better developed, because they come off as so awful. It's just, they were not fun villains. And the fact that I was absolutely cheering for them to be brutally murdered, and I was absolutely ecstatic when the Lost Boys killed them in Season 3, you done goofed with the villains. Overall, though, Season 2 was good. Season 3, you take out some of the issues, you stop making Hook, you take out that weird random Hook redemption arc, and Season 3A is pretty much solved. You scrub out a few of the character issues, and then Season 3B, you'd have to completely rewrite it. And I'm not saying it's impossible, because I actually did come up with some ideas for that. Because, hey, like, I mean, instead of making, Zelena Regina's half-sister, why don't you make her the daughter of the Wizard of Oz? And the fact that he, did a mistake he did long ago, ended up corrupting her and turning her green and all that stupid stuff. And then, they were she's back for revenge and stuff, and she's taking it out on the people in the fairy tale land in Storybrooke because of some weird convoluted connections, probably with the Dark One and stuff. You can work this in. You really could if you really wanted to. But what they did was just lazy. And that's the big thing. It's so lazy. And Frozen is the epitome of laziness in this. The Frozen storyline is just literally, let's take something that's popular now and just shove it into the story for views. And that, you can tell they're digging for views. Hey, let's take some popular Disney characters and just shove them in. But then act like we're really pretentiously brilliant about it. Yeah, no. I mean, I actually did come up with ideas for a full rewrite of, Once Upon a Time. Overall, it was like, I mean, it's really not that difficult. It's certainly not as difficult as doing a rewrite with Attack on Titan, because Attack on Titan is even more of a mess, if you can believe that. But it's just, it's so almost, you know, disappointing that I have to rewrite Once Upon a Time. You have such a strong idea in your hands. The writing was good, and even when it wasn't perfect, it was still pretty good, and it just drops off and ends up becoming absolute crap. I mean, hell, in terms of original storylines, I actually would only do the rest of Season 3 and Season 4, and then I'd cut off the story. Well, that's another problem that a lot of these things have, is that they don't actually let them have a set story. They literally just keep going and going until they're canceled, which is why you end up with these shows that always go off the rails, like Burn Notice. It's like, they go far past when the story should have stopped, and like, there's really not enough story to make this like a 10-season show. It's like, I mean, when shows, I mean, so many good shows were only like 2-3 seasons. Hell, Avatar: The Last Airbender has 3 seasons, and that's it. It ran its story and it's done. It's like, and so many writers tend to forget that, and honestly, Once Upon a Time is there's only a finite amount of story you can really tell with this idea. Because so much of it is based on what happened in the past, and the story Tilland, and then you have other assorted worlds like Wonderland and stuff. But there is a set amount of time that this is taking place over, even if it's a couple hundred years. You have things happening, and they're constantly trying to shove more things in, and it gets messier and messier. Don't even get me started on when they went back in time. Time travel's a thing now. But the writing of it is a mess. There's no way to fix this. Once Upon a Time is done. I quit watching it a long time ago, even though I do occasionally keep up with what's going on, and then I get disgusted. And I watched one episode and it was just like, what, Hades? And apparently Hades and Zelena had some romance together, and I'm just like, what? More and more is just really, really bad fan fiction. It's just, that's the bad part about this. It's just bad fan fiction at this point. You had a really interesting, I wouldn't say completely unique, but it's a really cool idea for a TV show, and you just screwed all to hell. I think that's about it for this topic. If you want to watch last week's topic, you can check that out here. If you want to watch next week's topic, I'll put that up here when I get that done. If you want to submit a topic, make sure you follow the rules that I'll be posting below on both Tumblr and YouTube. Make sure that the topic is something fictional, and it can be an in-universe thing or a more meta example like this, talking about the writing itself, or, you know, gameplay and stuff like that. And remember to make sure that it's not something real world. I don't particularly want to get into real life politics a lot with this. But yeah, thank you for watching.